Hey, welcome, welcome. I'm here to talk to you today about a exciting new spoiler coming out from Pack 4. I know that some people have probably already seen this or probably already heard about this before, but I, being not a Phoenix player, decided to go ahead for this little segment of L5R Lounge. We're not having an episode today, just scheduling issues didn't allow me to get a live match to show. But I do have a renowned Phoenix player, Mr. Travis McDaniel.
Hi,
Travis
Dan.
McDragon.
Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, how are you doing, Travis? Sorry I didn't get to have you on here to play, but I feel like this is probably more exciting for you to talk about, actually.
Yeah, I was looking forward to talking about it ever since you told me you had a spoiler. So I'm super excited, and man, this card is really sweet.
Yeah.
Don't sweat it about the game. We can always show off Seeker Avoid Phoenix in the World Cup, where we're gonna crush everyone with it.
Absolutely, yeah. So Phoenix right now definitely in a really good spot, and I guess just give me your thoughts on Phoenix, and what do you want to see from Phoenix going forward in the future before we show off this card.
I personally would like to see some of Phoenix's underutilized themes fleshed out a little more. Of course, I'm always down for more good Shugenja and more just like generally strong mid-rangey / tempo-based stuff for Shugenjas, but I would like to see like Courtiers and Bushi fleshed out just a little more, so we have like more diverse deck types that aren't just jamming all the good Shugenjas and Yojimbos into the deck.
Okay. So one thing to note about Phoenix, I guess, is they definitely are starting to sort of take a more active role in the lore as of late. Obviously, with like Tadaka kind of going north beyond the wall to hang around with Kuniyori. Obviously, nothing bad can come of that, right? So tell me about, I guess, in the previous lore, what happened whenever Tadaka started hanging out with Kuniyori?
So Tadaka was a very, I would say, like interesting but very one-note character in the old lore. Now, I'm not like an old lore expert by any means, but Tadaka's main story drive was to hunt down this specific Oni, whose name escapes me right now, and I'm just not able to look it up at this moment. But he was very like focused on this one goal. He ends up falling to darkness and later redeems himself. So he has like a traditional kind of redemption arc style character. And this time around, it's a little more deep. He seems like more genuinely intrigued and trying to stop some of these forces of shadow, and not like just a specific revenge story. And we're gonna see if he actually ends up falling himself. But there was also a very notable other elemental master who did fall and fell quite hard, and that was Isawa Tsuke.
Okay, and so Tsuke, we've already seen his card, and he was the playmat, I think, for the Hatamoto mat at Worlds, right?
Yes. Well, it was like the top Phoenix mat, but the same deal.
Okay.
We did already have a card for Tsuke that is 4-cost 3/3, and then it lets you like AOE trigger the fire ring on all targets of the same cost controlled by a player. And this was like a very cool effect. It allowed you to like kind of have like a very explosive, fiery fire ring effect. But it was just short of being playable because you need a lot of characters of the same cost, and a lot of Phoenix's main characters that you want to like mass honor are like 4-cost, and you can't really rely on your opponent to have a lot of same cost characters. It came out in the Lion pack, I believe, and it was kind of like meant to be like, oh, you could use Tsuke to dishonor all of Lion's cheap 1-drops and 2-drops, but even then, like Lion kind of also just plays like a fairly mid-range strategy now. So it's just like he just didn't really found a home.
Yeah, and obviously being an elemental master, it would be pretty sick if Tsuke. I feel like obviously Azunami is definitely the bottom tier one of the group, right? But Tsuke definitely has a very active role in the lore, and it would be kind of cool if he actually became playable at some point, right?
So. Just a quick touch. I actually think Tsuke is probably the weakest of the elemental masters we've seen.
Okay.
And that's simply because Azunami at least has like a niche role of being a big body you can recur with birds, and I think her effect is a little more useful than Tsuke's on average.
Okay, so
Tsuke requires literally 2 characters of the same cost, and you want to honor or dishonor both on the board, which isn't always the case. So there's times where Tsuke is literally blank, there's often a way you can make use of Azunami's ability in a turn without too terribly much issue.
That's fair. So basically, what you're saying is that Tsuke is the worst and that he needs a new card, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So that would be really handy.
So what if I told you that the spoiler that we have for today is going to be Isawa Tsuke? So I'm throwing them up on the stream right now for those of you who are watching at home. And I'll go ahead and read it out for you who are just listening and are not tabbed in. Isawa Tsuke, this is a new Tsuke. He's still a unique character, obviously. 5-cost character with 5 military, 4 political, and 3 glory. He's a Shugenja, fire, and elemental master with pride. And his ability is action during a conflict. If the fire ring is in the unclaimed ring pool, lose 1 or more honor. Choose an equal number of participating characters. Remove 1 fate from each of those characters. Travis, what are your thoughts?
I am very surprised that this card was printed.
Ooh,
This is I think it's very clear to see that this is a very strong card. His stats are very good for a 5-drop. Using the Yokuni standard, he's just 1 short of a pull from Yokuni. And, of course, the 3 glory is very nice in Phoenix for defending some Fukuseido, or, since Shameful Display is basically a de facto Phoenix province at this point, so if you just happen to, attack into Shameful Display and this guy gets honored, he becomes massive. And then on top of that, he has pride, and, Phoenix are pretty good about winning conflicts nowadays. So, again, he's just going to be a massive body, and that's not even factoring in the action, which just can give you several Void Rings at the cost of honor, and give you excellent board control. So, Tsuke is both very flavorful and very powerful. I think it's easily the strongest 5-drop we've seen since both Tadakas, and I would be remiss to think that he won't see a ton of play.
Yeah, I mean, so his action triggers, it's during a conflict, and it's whenever the fire ring is in the unclaimed ring pool. So don't forget, guys, that there is a difference between unclaimed, contested, and claimed, right? So if you're attacking with the fire ring, this cannot trigger. But if you're attacking with a different ring, and Tsuke's there, then he can go ahead and use his effect as long as the fire ring is not in that contested state, right? So...
Yes.
I guess one thing to note, so Secluded Shrine, obviously, does that count as, if someone has Secluded Shrine and they use it on fire, how would that interact with Tsuke here?
It does not, I believe, because it simply cares that the physical fire ring is in the unclaimed ring pool. Even though you have claimed the fire ring with the Secluded Shrine, the fire ring is still in the unclaimed ring pool. So Tsuke will still be turned on, and he doesn't non-bow with your Secluded Shrine Katana fire combo that I know everyone out there is just dripping to run now that we have a better Fire Shugenja to put into the deck.
Yeah, so anybody out there running Katana fire decks, Demagogue, I'm looking at you. You have a very powerful fire card to now run in your deck. And man, I just think that this is going to be a pretty big staple in a lot of Phoenix decks going forward, just because that effect is so strong. Being able to just void off your, a participating character with a body attached to it too, is definitely very, very powerful. Even if it means, paying a little bit of honor sometimes. I think that Phoenix definitely has a lot of ways to regain honor, and it allows them to use honor as more of a disposable resource than other clans.
Yes, most notable of which is the Ancestral Shrine, which allows you to gain a point of honor for every ring you claimed in the turn by returning it to the claimed ring pool in the end of the conflict phase or during the fate phase. So that just very easily allows you to trigger, basically just turn that shrine's activation into more void rings. So while Tsuke is on the board, he does provide a nice threat for your opponent. Basically, while the fire ring is unclaimed, they will not want to ever put fated characters into conflicts lest they be burned alive and then later removed in the turn.
All right, and so let's talk about deck building for a second. And as far as where Tsuke goes, obviously this is a very powerful card, but we found in the past that Phoenix deck building is definitely very tight, and it may be difficult to fit him into decks. So where do you expect to see Tsuke the most, and what would you, where do you find the space for that in those decks?
So I think we're going to cut another high-cost option here. It's probably going to be Ujina, though the synergy with Tsuke is quite strong with Ujina, that might warrant him retaining the cut. If not Ujina, then Prodigy of the Waves is probably the next on the chopping block. It could also be Infernal Guard Invoker, though we'll probably, because Tsuke is also a Fire Shugenja, maybe it's worth testing Katana Fire Secluded Shrine and having both Fire Shugenjas there to help make those katanas very big. So there's a lot of stuff to test, but the short story is I think Tsuke will be in almost every deck. You're going to find room for him.
Okay,
And it's just that big of a threat on the board.
And so the main deck that you're talking about right now is going to be, what you mentioned before, Seeker of Void, IMS, mid-range type Phoenix. How do you feel like he fits into Bird? I feel like this seems like a very strong Bird card, right?
Absolutely a very strong Bird card. Now, Bird was hit a little harder than most by the most recent restricted list, being forced to choose between Consumed by 5 Fires and Display of Power. And also, if you were playing like a Keeper Bird deck, you have to add Keeper Initiates as well, being lost. So Bird did take a bit more of a hit than the like IMS Seeker or Voidless. Tsuke helps bring that a little bit more into the front because Bird has been hungry for a good 5-drop Shugenja that wasn't Kaede, and like in the same way, Tsuke puts that same pressure on that Kaede does of like removing characters and extra void rings, but he's just got way better stats and is like a win more card, which Bird loves.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, this is this is definitely very exciting for Phoenix. I don't think we've seen any other Phoenix cards officially from this next pack. So this will be your first taste of what is to come from Phoenix, and obviously right now Phoenix definitely seems very strong, especially with this last pack 3 additions, and getting a new power card like this will certainly help them out and help them stand out a little more in the meta right now.
Yeah, I think it's very clear now that Phoenix is going to be a strong meta force going forward. Tsuke just slots right into the current deck. He provides a nice link between your opponent not like wanting to fate their characters too much into Consumed by 5 Fires, but now if they underfate their characters, they're very vulnerable to Tsuke. So it kind of puts Phoenix in this dominating like board presence position once they get Tsuke on the board and can stock up fate for Consumed by 5 Fires. There's not a lot you can do to keep a board presence going, and then Phoenix will just take you down from there.
Yeah, so definitely looking forward to seeing that out of Phoenix. And man, I just want to take a second just to comment on this art on this piece because this is Tsuke already has one of the coolest arts I think in the game, and then this art right here is also just phenomenal too, right? Like, he's lighting people on fire, which I guess fits his character. I know that he's sort of like kind of crazy-ish. But I don't know if he's currently supposed to be crazy, but this definitely seems a little foreboding as to what's to come, right?
Absolutely. So we can see if our fallen master will return in the new story within the next few expansions, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously this is happening right now, so with this Tsuke coming out, for those of you who are lore heads, read into it what you will as far as what this means for the future of the Phoenix clan. I know that Black Scrolls are definitely something that people have been waiting to see come into the story, and the whole Phoenix corruption line and that kind of thing could definitely be something that could happen in the future. And when you have your elemental master lighting people on fire in this card, then I think that definitely foreshadows a little bit heavier than most.
Yeah, for sure. And, lighting people on fire is basically why a good number of Phoenix players joined the clan, so here we are.
Of course. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's about all I have to say. I don't know if you have any other comments about Tsuke, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, I am also very excited. I don't have much else to say. The card strength stands on its own. I'm a salesperson for a living, and this is just one of those things that sells itself. I don't really need to add much here. You can just tell by looking at it the quality here.
Yeah, for sure. So those of you who are watching, obviously you got the first look at this card. I will be posting this up on both Facebook and on the L5R Discord, and hopefully, we'll be seeing the rest of Pack 4 relatively soon, I think, and it'll be out in stores by the beginning of August. I know Pack 3 is due out next week, I think. I think it's next week. Definitely as quarantine is starting to end, that means that we're starting to get more opportunities to go out there and support your local stores. Go out there, buy the packs. Don't forget that they came out in the first place. And make sure you guys are practicing the appropriate level of social distancing whenever you guys are playing games in paper, if you are now. But otherwise, Jigoku is still there for you. There's a lot going on in the online scene right now, so make sure you guys are following along with that. Join those online tournaments, join those online leagues, and make sure that you're following along on this stream as well as everybody else. Shout outs to all the other streamers out there who are out there providing content to all the people out there for their L5R fix. But I think that's all we have for today, so I'll go ahead and post these up in a little bit. But thank you, Travis, for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
All right, and we'll catch you guys later.